रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप होते हैं।
रिश्ते में
रिश्ते में
हम
हम
तुम्हारे
तुम्हारा
बाप
बाप लगते
लगते
हैं।
हैं।
नाम है शहंशाह।
नाम है
शहंशाह।
शहंशाह।
Shahenshah means the king.
Okay.
I'm here with the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Mr. Alan CHASTANET. So thank you so much for joining us on B4U.
It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. A little bit of viewers who do not know much about Mr. Alan. Alan was actually the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation from 2006 to 2011. And prior to that, also worked with Air Jamaica, if I'm not mistaken. Like to ask you, how did that transformation came from being a Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation to winning the United Workers' Party by 11, 11 is to out of 17 seats, you won 11 seats. So that's a huge win. What motivated you to move towards that?
Well, I've always been very passionate about the development of my country and also of the region. So I would say to you that I'm absolutely a regionalist and believe that the Caribbean needs to have a more functional corporation in terms of being able to be more competitive on a global basis. Being the Minister of Tourism, and I was a senator, so it means I was selected, not elected, gave me the opportunity to be inside of a cabinet and to get an intimate look as to how government was run and more importantly how politics was played. So I actually ran for elections in 2011 and I lost. And I came back in 2013 and I was able to win the leadership of my party. I had 3 conventions that I had to go through prior to the elections. The most significant thing that we did when we were in opposition is we developed a mission, a vision, and a value. So why are we there? So basically we said there was 4 fundamental things that we wanted to work on as a party. One was to provide a globally competitive education system.
Very good.
So an education system wasn't just about being able to read and write and understand maths, but one that was going to be more relevant to the world on a global basis. The second one was to have what we call affordable quality healthcare. And again, unlike a lot of other governments that were promising universal healthcare, we were promising affordable quality healthcare. The third thing is creating a secure country. And then the last one was really creating economic opportunity for everybody. So those were the 4 fundamental things that we did.
Now you took office on the 7th of June 2016 from Honorable Kenny Anthony. So from 7th of June 2016 to mid-September, what are the things that have been implemented? What are the major things, major movements or developments that's happened in St. Lucia?
Well, we've compartmentalized our focus on some critical areas. So the number one job was in justice. So we had a court system that was not very strong. We had...
Was that one of the biggest challenges when you took office?
It's been consistently a problem.
Okay.
And so what happened was that we had old buildings. The court system is spread out all over the place. Because we've been running consecutive deficit governments and the debt has been going up, more and more money is going towards debt financing than really in terms of improving the services. So we're physically changing the buildings. The second thing is we're beefing up the investigating arm and the strength of the police force.
Very nice.
So
because you don't have a military.
We don't have military, so we didn't have a forensic lab. It was closed, so we've reopened the forensic lab.
Wonderful.
We had no Coast Guard boats. We've now got 8 Coast Guard boats up and running. The next step after that is to create a social program for after-school programs.
Yes, education, as you mentioned, is extremely crucial, and education is free in the country, correct?
It is. But the after-school programs is school ends at 2:30, so it's to create clubs in which you can have primary school level programs, secondary school levels, and senior level programs, both in sports and in cultural activities. So, I'm a huge sports fanatic,
You are right. Yep, absolutely.
but I also believe that sports teaches us incredible values.
It does.
Teaches us how to compete,
Teamwork.
teamwork, teaches you how to lose. And I think that the more competitive your sporting programs can be at that level, the greater chance of excellence. So excellence absolutely coincides with practice. So it's to get proper leagues going and also clubs, which means involvement of parents to be able to be the chairpersons and on the board and making sure that these programs are working. So it really helps in terms of unifying your country. So we've been working on that. We've been very successful in attracting new investments into the country.
Great, great.
So we have 6 new hotels coming in.
Very nice, because tourism is huge.
Huge.
It's one of the biggest industries in St. Lucia at this time.
Correct. We've broken ground on a horse racing track, and we're also building our own version of the Palm Islands. So we're building a chain of 23 islands.
That is amazing. We have a mini Dubai with a shorter flight in the future.
We're also been focusing on the government, so re-engineering the civil service. So like India, we have permanent secretaries. We think that the permanent secretaries have in many ways lost their way because they're really bureaucrats and not technocrats. So it's to really retool our PSs and re-look at the organizational structure of government itself to try to make it a lot more effective. We have red-fenced our current revenue, and we basically said we're not going to borrow any more money on the existing revenue.
Now, I read a lot, and there is an article, I wouldn't like to quote exactly, where a lot of authors have compared you with Donald Trump. And I'm sure you must be aware of that because you also have a business background, and so does he. So I'm sure
So does Mr. Modi.
So does Mr. Monty, absolutely. So I'm sure you'll take that as a compliment, and I'm sure St. Lucia is in great hands with you being the Prime Minister. Moving back to that, how do you see the GDP and inflation? Any few things that you would want to talk about, making the GDP better and tackling inflation?
It all depends on how you want to grow your GDP. If you don't have any capacity change, and it's being driven out of value, then you have a great danger of creating inflation. Because if you're now pumping up the demand, but the ability to be able to supply is limited, then that's going to be a big difficulty. Where we're very lucky is we have the world. There is no shortage of money in the world. Once you can have projects that are producing a competitive ROI, then you can attract money.
Correct.
In terms of workers, St. Lucia right now has a very high unemployment rate of 20%.
Okay.
But in absolute terms, it's very small.
Because the population itself is small.
Correct.
180?
170,000.
I was near, very close.
So if in fact we start meeting that demand of workers, we can always bring people in from the Caribbean, and there's also other countries that we can bring labor in. So St. Lucia is actually the same physical size as Singapore. And Singapore is 7 million people, and we're 170,000, just to put it in perspective. So the opportunity for growth is tremendous.
It's tremendous, I agree.
So it's about investing in infrastructure to make sure that you're not creating any constraints and that you're allowing your economy to be able to grow freely. We're trying to reduce that overall debt and make sure that we're working with the private sector jointly on a PPPs to improve the capacity of the country.
And tourism, is there any way to make it like a complete tourist-free land, like visas on arrival for all countries in the world?
Well, we're there for the most part.
I read the list. I read there's an extensive list of visas on arrival. India is a part of that list as well.
Yes.
But besides that, there's a lot of countries. Are you looking forward to do that?
We're trying to open up as much as possible. And I think the good news is that world travel is getting more and more efficient. Facial recognition technology is going to be huge. So the idea from a security perspective, I think that very soon nobody will be traveling and the world doesn't know.
That's correct. Agree. I agree with that.
So the reason for a lot of visa regimes is people are concerned, and until you have the systems to
place.
verify the status to people, you have to be very cautious. But I'm certainly one that says, okay, if countries are more than likely have to go through Europe or through America to get here, that in itself becomes a bit of a screening in
Correct.
itself.
There's a pre-screening involved in that.
Right. So, but we're also being very aggressive. We have a citizenship by investment program. So where people can become a citizen of St. Lucia. It's $100,000 as a donation.
Wonderful.
Or they can make a $300,000 investment in one of the existing investments in St. Lucia and get a passport. We're also in the process of launching a residence-in program where they can buy real estate in St. Lucia, become a resident, and that we have what's called a non-domicile tax rate that we're imposing right now, which will be $35,000 US dollars. So as a resident, you can do everything in St. Lucia except vote. And then after some years, as a resident, you can also become a citizen. So we're being very aggressive on our financial services.
That's great. That's great. You're opening doors in every aspect. Well, moving on to something lighter, since we're here talking about the Caribbean Premier League. So how was your experience with the Darren Sammy team? I know it didn't do that well. No, we were the media sponsors, B for you. So how was your overall experience with the St. Lucia Stars and the Premier League?
Well, you know, we've changed over from the Zooks to the Stars.
I know.
So it took everybody a little bit long to adjust to that.
I kept on saying St. Lucia Zooks all the time, yeah.
And unfortunately, it did not do well, but it doesn't take away from the fan experience.
Exactly.
So I think that Jay learned a lot this year. I'm very encouraged that he continues to be incredibly enthusiastic.
He is very enthusiastic.
And more importantly, that he is an owner that has brought his business success to play. Sure. And I think that he's determined to make sure that the Stars win. So we are looking at broadening the base of the Stars.
Right.
And hopefully we'll be successful in making that happen. And we're looking to improve the physical facility. You know, St. Lucia was very blessed that we were already ahead of the pack. A lot of other people have now caught up. And so we really want to see what we can do to be able to enhance the overall fan experience. We have 2 golf courses now that are going to be open. So Greg Norman is doing one of them. We're hoping the Ben Crenshaw course is going to start soon. Our marina facilities, we have a new Hilton hotel, a new Curious hotel, a new Hyatt hotel. Sandals is expanding up north. So I'm really hoping that by next year, when we have the tournament again, that more and more people will come down to join us. You know, for the Indian and Asian community here, there's non-stop flights from Philadelphia, from New York, daily flights from Atlanta, from Miami, and from Charlotte. So it's easy to get to, and we understand the lingo of cricket.
Cricket, absolutely. Well, under your leadership, I surely feel that St. Lucia has many more bright years to come. And what I feel that maybe St. Lucia would be the next Dubai or the next Singapore, probably even much better than that in years to come. And as far as the St. Lucia Stars is concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if they lift the trophy next year. You know, because that's what happens in cricket. You're down at the bottom of the table and then you come back and win the trophy.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, if Jay follows up with half his determination, I think that you're going to be right.
Absolutely. Before we sign off, since we are all about Bollywood, do you ever follow Bollywood or watch a Bollywood movie in your life?
My wife is very, very, very strong in Bollywood. But I have to say to you that
you have two kids.
Yes.
Ryan
and Braden.
And Braden.
Yeah.
All right.
But I have to say to you though, again, Bollywood is one of those great success stories that we don't make enough of. You know, one of the companies I worked for was a gentleman called Chris Blackwell,
right,
who did Island Records. So he discovered Bob Marley and U2 and Melissa Etheridge. And what you all have done in creating this incredible industry and to be able to promote your own culture is just really to be envied. And I congratulate all of you.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm hoping maybe we can get Bollywood to meet Carnival.
Bollywood in St. Lucia.
With Carnival.
With the Carnival. Because St. Lucia could be a venue for a lot of directors, you know?
Absolutely.
They could come and film Bollywood there.
Absolutely. But even to take the 2 cultures and mix it up, because the Caribbean, we have been incredibly successful in the music industry.
Right.
And to be able to see that music now with the artistic flair that Bollywood has, and the ability maybe even of producing our own Caribbean hood.
Caribbean hood. Well, would you want to say a very famous line from Bollywood?
Oh, I can't even know one.
I'll tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
अपने गुरूर के मीनार से नीचे उतरो और सामना करो उन लोगों का जो तुम्हारे जुल्म के सताए हुए हैं। पहले तो ये बताओ कि तुम कौन हो। रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप होते हैं। नाम है शहंशाह।
से रिश्ते में
रिश्ते में
हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं। हम तुम्हारे
तुम्हारा
बाप
बाप
लगते हैं।
लगते हैं। नाम है
शहंशाह।
शहंशाह।
Shahenshah means the king.
Okay.
So the line is रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं। नाम है शहंशाह. Well, it's the biggest, most famous line from the biggest actor ever in Bollywood, Amitabh Bachchan, the Big B. He's in Madame Tussauds, the guy with the French beard, and he's one of the best ever. So you said his favorite line. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Alan, signing off. And I'm glad you must have enjoyed our interview. Thank you so much for giving us your time, sir.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Guys, keep watching. We have more in store. Thank you.